news on BBC1 now with Laurie Mayer.
Good evening. Extra airport security throughout Britain has made it a day of delays for thousands of Easter holidaymakers. Airports all over Europe have stepped up security in the wake of American warnings of a possible hijacking. And the Contra rebels in Nicaragua are to get $40 million in aid from the United States provided they stop fighting. Extra security checks are in force at Europe's major airports this Easter following warnings of a possible hijacking issued by the United States. A report in the Independent newspaper today claims that there was a fourth warning before the Lockerbie disaster in December. It says the American authorities issued an alert after two men, disguised as policemen, asked about security procedures at Frankfurt Airport.
Anxious about the terrorist threat and resentful of much publicised breaches of security cordons, British Airports Authority officials have been trying to forbid photography even in the public areas at Heathrow. In the minutes before police and officials bore down on them, cameramen recorded what thousands of passengers could see for themselves. A new and thorough check before they even reached the check-in desks. In the glare of public debate about warnings at Lockerbie and this weekend's American warning of a planned Easter hijack in Europe, major airports all over Europe are now knuckling down to uncompromising scrutiny of people and luggage about to board aircraft. The French are not bothering with hiding their security measures. Charles de Gaulle Airport outside Paris is stiff with armed policemen and their dogs. The airport commissioner wrote personally to the police. His published letter names 3 Palestinians whom, he said, the American airline TWA suspects of planning a hijack. And the French Interior Ministry has telexed police headquarters with a call for special vigilance over Easter. At Frankfurt Main Airport, where British investigators suspect the Lockerbie bomb began its murderous journey, thousands of homegoing Americans are being politely questioned in detail about their luggage before their journey begins.
28 people have been rescued from a cable car at Alton Towers in Staffordshire after it was blown into cables by high winds. Some of the passengers, including a 2-year-old child, were stranded 100 feet up for more than 2 hours. They had to be rescued by firemen using ropes and harnesses. None of the passengers was hurt. President Bush has reached agreement with congressional leaders in Washington to provide another $40 million for the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. But the money is strictly for humanitarian purposes and won't be paid if there's any more fighting. Mr. Bush said he hoped the agreement would lead to a new day of peace and democracy in Nicaragua.
The administration has sharply changed course, with Mr. Bush effectively dumping his predecessor's Central American policy. The president wouldn't admit its failure. His Secretary of State had fewer inhibitions.
Without trying to assign blame with respect to the past policy, Helen, I think we all have to admit that the policy basically failed to some extent because we were not united. We had an executive branch going in one direction and a legislative branch going in another.